Mark Mitchell.
Mr Chair, I noticed that you looked over at Grant Robinson, Mr Chair, and he's been following this debate intently throughout, and I'm surprised that he hasn't taken a call on this bill. I'm very happy and pleased to take another call on the Christian Churches New Zealand Property Trust Board Empowering Bill. And Mr Chair, I was referring to some of the churches that are actually involved in this group and are going to be affected by this and empowered by this very important change that we're debating and talking about in the House tonight. I referred to, and I said that there were churches actually from the far north to the far south. I spoke about Moringi Bay Community Church, which I know personally. I want to acknowledge them. I want to acknowledge the work that they do in our communities. And I also want to acknowledge their Member of Parliament, the Honourable Murray McCulley. The Honourable Murray McCulley. No, I think it's important actually that I do actually go through some of the churches that are a part of the Christian Churches New Zealand Property Trust Board Empowering Bill. We've got the Freedom Community Centre in Invercargill, which I'm sure the outgoing Deputy Chair of the Government and Admin Committee would know very well, Sarah Dowie, the very good Member of Parliament for Invercargill. And of course, her predecessor, Mr Eric Roy, was also heavily involved in the community as a Christian leader as well. The Research Christian Centre in Rumataka, and the Church of Christ Community in Dunedin North. I want to mention them, and of course I want to mention the very good List MP for Dunedin North, the Honourable Michael Woodhouse. The Unite Church in Nelson, and actually I want to mention the Unite Church in Nelson, Mr Chair, because this is really important, because obviously, well, the thing is, this bill, of course, was brought to the House by the Honourable Dr Nick Smith, and of course the Unite Church. That's right, and the Unite Church is in Nelson. I don't know why the opposition have got a problem with me actually highlighting some of the churches and the areas that they operate in. Like I said, I'd be very keen to hear from Mr Robinson, because he appears to be very engaged in the debate, but he doesn't want to take a call. I'd also like to hear some more thoughts from the member in the chair, because I don't think there's another member in the House that has got more experience and more background than him. And actually,
well, I'm going to intervene now. It's all very well talking about where the churches are located, and that's fine, that's within scope of the bill, but accolades about every member who happens to be associated with the church within that region is really stretching it, I have to say. And I'm happy that you include churches, because that forms the basis. The other churches involved, that's fine. But then to have the accolades about how your colleagues are actually associated with that region is really stretching it too far. And so I'll ask the member to come back and be more focused on the churches where they are, but not then a précis of the member who happens to be representing that particular area. Mark Mitchell.
That's a good point, Mr Chair. I guess I did get a bit carried away in wanting to highlight the great work that these...
That's right. Well, I've made a ruling now, and if the member just concentrates, you can't comment on a ruling I've made. So just focus on what I've suggested you do on part 2 and the clauses associated with that. Mark Mitchell.
What's your church? Thank you, Mr Chair. Like I said, I am very happy to take to have another call on the Christian Churches New Zealand Property Trust Board Empowering Bill. And so what I'll do is I've got a list of about 30 churches here. I might come back to them. I might come back to them in one of my future calls. And I think it is important to name them. But I'm going to come back to part 2 and the transfer of property. Well, I'd like to, if you give me a chance. I mean, I'd love the member to take a call. Please take a call, because I can see how engaged you are on the bill.
Yep. Let's start on part 2.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chair, you're right. Back to part 2, transfer of property rights and obligations from old board to new board. And I want to acknowledge my colleague, Chris Bishop, that made some, actually he had some insightful comments to make around this. The transfer of property rights and obligations. On and from the commencement of this Act, the property rights and obligations of the old board are vested in the new board. He made a very good point that this is going to be a seamless transition, and that is important because obviously the new board can't begin operating, making decisions and managing their assets until it has the royal assent and they're vested and they have the authority to do that. So that was a very important point that he highlighted and raised in his contribution to this bill. Proceedings that could have been commenced or continued by or against...
Mr. Chair.